Good afternoon and welcome to the 2025 Michigan Jazz Festival. This is our 30th anniversary and I'm so happy that you're here celebrating it with us. My name's Mike Whiting and I'm the MC for this stage, which is the Jazz Talks stage. And we'll have a series of interviews and presentations all day long. I would ask that you turn off your cell phones at this time. Thank you. And please remember to stop by our Give 5 to Keep It Alive desks. This festival is free, but it's not cheap. And we need your donations to keep it free and keep it going every year, so your support is greatly appreciated. Also be sure to stop by at the merchandise table where we have all kinds of really cool swag, shirts, t-shirts, jewelry even, and brooches with real diamonds in them that you can purchase at value prices if you like. Not really. Anyway, and if you would be kind enough on your way out to stop and fill out our survey form. It's very important to us to know what you liked and didn't like and how we can do things better in the future. I'd also like to thank our stage sponsors today, Dave and Jeanette Sharp, who are jazz music fans, retired Detroit public school teachers who donated the cash needed to fund this stage, the cameras, the sound, and everything else. Very generous of them, and without their support we couldn't do this, and our other stage sponsors. Anyway, our first interview today is between George Sinnott as the interviewer, and the interviewee is the one and the only Jeff Trudell. Thank you. Jeff is the consummate big band drummer in the Detroit metropolitan area without any doubt whatsoever. He's played nationally and internationally with all the name bands you could think of. He is also the leader of the Jeff Trudell Jazz Orchestra, which he inherited from his late great dad, Johnny Trudell, the premier dance and jazz band in Detroit for decades. The interviewer, George Sinnott, is a successful business owner, one of several businesses, but those are his hobbies. His real passion is jazz music. And he's the lead saxophonist for the great Stardusters dance band in Oakland County. He plays with other bands as well. And his other hobby is a TV interview on a local TV station. One of the programs that he hosts involves interviews with jazz celebrities in the Detroit area, and he has interviewed anybody who's anything in the Detroit jazz scene. So you're going to get the best of everything here. So without anything further, please join me in welcoming George Sinnott and Jeff Trudell, our first interview.
Wow, what an introduction.
Yeah. Doesn't get any better than that, does it, Jeff?
We better say a lot of good stuff.
Anyway, welcome, and it's great to have you here, Jeff. We're going to talk a little bit about your background. I know that your dad was famous in the Detroit area, but we want to spend today talking about you.
Okay,
Dad.
All right.
Okay? Now, let's talk a little bit about your background. When did you actually become interested in music?
I can't remember a time that I wasn't in that house. There was always music. It was, I think for a lot of kids that have musicians as parents, it's intrinsic. It kind of happens. It's osmosis. Not everybody takes that interest, but I happen to. I was 2 years old, I remember, tried to put a trumpet in my face.
Really?
Yeah, I've still got it. I've still got that trumpet. And when I saw the drums, that was it. I can't remember a time. And at that time, I was 2, 3 years old. He had gone downtown to, at the time, George Hamilton's drum shop. I had to buy a set of drums for my son. So I had a little Japanese drum set at the time, made for kids. I had those drums busted in about 10 minutes. For real. The heads were all, I don't know what we're going to do. This kid keeps going through equipment. So I got a professional set when I was 5, small version.
Yeah.
And then when I was 7, I inherited a set of drums from the great Art Mardigan, who was a wonderful jazz drummer in Detroit and all over the country actually for many years, played with Charlie Parker and Diz and everybody. So at a young age, I was exposed to a good instrument
Yeah, sounds like it.
and was able to learn from that. And then I started working with the band, with his band when I was 10. So I was very young.
With your dad's band?
Yes.
Fantastic.
I was very fortunate to start.
So what happened to the trumpet? That kind of disappeared?
It stays under the bed, and once in a while, to impress Walter White,
Oh,
I play a couple of notes and he puts it away again for another 10 years.
yeah, right. So, so the trumpet kind of took the background and went away.
It did.
And as soon as you hit the drums, you said, this is the instrument that I really want to play.
Exactly.
So you started it, you said professionally, 10 years old with your dad?
Yes.
That's fantastic.
And then other people started calling. Tommy Saunders still had his Dixieland band.
Oh, yeah?
So I started working with the Surfside Six. I would get calls from Tom, and my folks would take me out and take with my drums, or I had an aunt also that would take me out late night. And Tom would vouch for me because he and my father kind of looked alike.
Yeah.
So Tom would say, well, that's my nephew. I could work at clubs late night. 10, 11 years old, I was working Dearborn Townhouse, and different clubs, not realizing it wasn't normal to have a 10 or 11-year-old kid working a club at 1 in the morning. So it was fun. It was a great education working for Tom because that Dixieland background led to understanding small group, understanding actually playing with a big band because there's choruses and you know,
Oh, yeah?
it's form.
Sure. And it's a lot freer than working with a big band because,
Exactly.
you know, you don't know who's going to be taking the next chorus.
Exactly.
And everything kind of flows. you know.
There's an improvisational aspect to Dixieland that
Right.
lends itself to that, so that's wonderful.
Yeah, I got a Dixieland band up in Lake Orion, and like I said, you know, you never know who's going to play the next solo.
Right.
Leader goes, okay, you're next, you're next, you're next, and
Right.
you know, it kind of flows.
Yep. And it helps you develop, at a young age, it helps you develop the ability to solo with other musicians.
So at 10 years old, you're doing your thing.
Yeah.
You're playing with your dad. You're playing with Tom. You're having a good time, I assume.
Oh, yeah.
And learning a lot of things that adults probably learn.
Yes.
That kids don't learn at 10 years old, right?
Yes. And that's
We're not
okay.
going to talk about what, right?
No, right, we're not. But I was fortunate enough to have two solid parents that were around the industry, and it kept me in line.
Yeah, I believe it.
Sure, sure. Dad was a wonderful, not only a great band leader, but he was a great dad when it came to understanding how to bring a son up in the music
Yeah.
business. Sure.
I remember seeing you playing with your dad's band on percussion
Okay.
rather than on the drums.
Yeah.
So you did that as well, I assume. You did a lot of that probably.
Well, once I got to high school, it was the Interlochen Arts Academy. It was time to go to legit school, and I can remember playing shows, 13, 14 years old, and having Ray Teeny say to me, kiddo, you gotta learn to read, really read, like the big boys. And Interlochen certainly helped with that.
So you went to Interlochen for how long?
3 summers.
Did you really?
Yeah, all-state camper, which it's funny if you talk to Walter or some of the guys that actually went to school up there, we're just the all-state kids.
Yeah, right.
They were the
They're
real.
the pros, right?
Yeah, right. And Walter was incidentally, Walter was in the orchestra up there, it would be like a collegiate, semi-high school or semi-college level orchestra there, the main orchestra, and that's where he was discovered by Bob James.
Okay.
So he ended up playing first season or second season of Taxi when he was 19 years old. He was around at a very young age exposed, so I can't say enough good stuff about Interlochen. It definitely changed my playing and my...
So you learned to read?
Yes.
Really read?
And play mallets. I was playing a lot of...
Yeah.
In those days, I'd play mallets on shows, different shows that come through places like the Premier Center, and I played timpani and xylophone and bells and all that stuff too.
Wow.
I want to be well-rounded. I don't do it too much anymore because, quite frankly, there's not the call for it that there once was.
So you're more than a drummer. You're a real percussionist.
Went to music school at Wayne State under Matt and Dennis, who turned out a ton of good musicians around town. I mean, the lineage of Matt and Dennis's education, so many musicians. I mean, I can remember in college, the band I was in, which was Lab Band 1, John Kelso was in that band, who's now a very
Yeah.
successful trad musician.
Yeah.
Chris Collins was in that band. Keith Kaminsky was in that band.
Wow.
Kevin Welling was in it. We had a lot of good, John Douglas came through. We had a lot of good musicians come through that band. Mike Balos was in the band with us. We went to Europe together. So it was, at the time, on par with any of the jazz schools you were going to go to, whether it be Berkeley or North Texas. And Dennis Flatt just said to me, I'm not letting you go anywhere. You're staying at home.
Right,
You're
right.
not leaving, which was wonderful, to have that.
Sure. Now, have you been on the road with any bands? Or you pretty much worked around in Detroit?
No, I traveled a lot. I'm not a lot. It's funny because I don't think a lot of people know, but I spent 20 years at Radio City working for the Rockettes.
Really?
It was probably, in terms of long, because I was working with local bands here, probably the longest tenure I had, which was on par with guys like Billy Gladstone and Bill Street, guys like that in New York. So I was very fortunate to get on board with Radio City in about 1996. And it was just a wonderful experience to work with them every year, about 3 months out of the year. I would get to go to Myrtle Beach or New York or different places and travel and play with them. That led to two other Altar Boys, which was an off-Broadway that toured for a year. We were out for a solid.
Altar Boys?
Yes. Boy band.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
It was a tongue-in-cheek on 90s boy bands.
Okay.
It was an all-Catholic band that went on the road. It was kind of
cool.
So it was fun. It was a great thing with a bunch of younger actors and singers and dancers. And then call came from Steven Spielberg to go out on the road with Shrek the Musical.
Really?
So that was wonderful. That was 2010 and 11. And that led us to 36 cities in 13 months.
Well,
And we went everywhere. It was a wonderful
you're
experience.
using it all.
I've been able to really be lucky in this business and work a lot of different styles of music. Toured with Josh Groban for 2 years.
Really?
The Stages tour. So another person was kind of a crossover, kind of a mainstream
Right.
towards pop rock.
Yeah.
And Josh was wonderful to work for. There's been a lot. Through the years, I kind of look back now at 55. I'm 55 years old this year, and it's been a heck of a run.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And you're not done yet?
No.
You're just getting started.
We hope so. We hope so.
Yeah, that's great. So, locally, you're working with your own big band.
Yes.
And in addition to that, you also have small groups.
I
right?
do. I have a yacht rock band. It's a new style, or kind of a marketing ploy, if you will. It's a 70s and 80s pop rock, and I've got a band that does that type of music.
What's the instrumentation on that one?
That's two guitars, 2 keyboards, bass, drums, and then once in a while we'll add a horn section, 4
Okay,
horns.
4 horns?
Yeah. And then small group, if there's a small group jazz thing, we still do that.
Yeah.
The big band, we're still working. We'll be working September the 26th. We're doing Back in Bob Anderson and Andiamo.
Oh, yeah.
So we're still doing a lot of the things, everything that we were doing 5-10 years ago with Dad. It's fortunate for us that it's continued. Fox Theater, we did El Volo a couple months ago, so shows still coming through the Fox. We're contracting and doing, and we're very lucky. I feel very blessed. Very blessed.
So, not too long ago, you had a medical issue, I understand. And was that on a gig or was that off a gig?
It was on a gig.
It was actually on a gig.
I was pulling up to a club, and that's the last thing I remember. 5 days later, I woke up in Sparrow Hospital up north, and I was told that I was in a coma for 5 days. So I tell everybody now, check your blood pressure.
Yeah.
My blood pressure was 240 over 120.
Wow.
And luckily no heart damage. Did not have a heart attack. Thank you.
Now, the guys that were with you at the time, they do anything to...
It's funny. The piano player was Jeff Pressler, who, anybody that knows
Oh,
Jeff
sure.
has got a great sense of humor.
Oh, yeah,
He's dry. And when I hit the deck, Jeff kind of looked over and went, "Is he in the sauce? What's going on over there?" Because I was setting up my drums, they kind of joked about it at first. And then I didn't get up, and it wasn't so funny because Nick Londra was the bass player on the job. So.
Right.
And Ryan DeHughes was actually the vocalist who'll be performing later today here. I gave him quite a scare, so.
Yeah, I
just
would think
glad
so.
to be- Just glad to be here.
And you didn't wake up for 5 days?
Yeah. Lucky.
Yeah.
Very lucky.
Wow. So who are some of the great people that you work with in terms of musicians and vocalists?
We'll stick in the jazz genre because that's
Yeah.
what we're kind of doing here today. I got a chance to work with Carmen McRae.
Oh yeah, I saw her years ago in Connecticut.
A small
Great.
set, one set, but just one. We had a really rich guy come on to boats years ago, would travel up and down. It wasn't the Diamond Cruises, but years ago there was a Star of Detroit, and they hired Sarah Vaughan. So I got to play with Sarah.
Oh, man.
Ralph and I did Armstrong. Got to work with Bobby Tucker, who was an arranger, amazing pianist with her. Of course, I mentioned Josh Groban. Jazz people, Diane Shure.
She's terrific.
Basie's band for a night. That was a
That must have been a kick.
that was a one-off. My dad opened his mouth to Frank Foster, who at the time they needed a drummer for one night. Duffy needed a night off, and I went and played with Cleveland Eaton, and it was quite an experience. Dizzy was on that gig too,
Wow.
that was pretty amazing. I was about 19 years old when that happened, 18 years old. So it was great to play with Diz. Woody's band, Dad and I both played with Woody's band one
Really?
night, and that was the first time a father and son had played with Woody's band since Chubby and Duffy Jackson in the 50s. So
Wow.
that was Walter had actually arranged all of that. They needed a drummer for that night. He said, the dad's no slouch, man. We could have John in the band, so we got a chance to all work together. It was wonderful.
Wow.
Frank Tiberi, yeah.
Those great experiences.
A very fortunate guy.
Yeah.
Very fortunate.
Wow. Now, some of the clubs you work around the area, you work, I think you work the Rec Bowl, right?
Work the Rec Bowl.
You do the Andiamos.
We do Andiamos. That's probably the one we're probably noted for the most because of the years of having the big band out there.
Right.
Different shows. The band's still known. It's funny to me because it's a jazz orchestra. What is it? It's a working orchestra that knows how to read.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it is, that knows how to also play jazz. And it's something in any big market that has an art form, we need that. You need a good, strong orchestra that when people like a Sarah Vaughan or a Diane Shure or somebody like that comes to town, you have musicians capable of being able to rise to the level to play with those people. And that's a very important thing. And because you're always cultivating new talent, new musicians, to get them to that plateau where they're able to play with those kinds of players, world-class musicians, like a Walter White, or some of the guys in the band that have played. I've got, in that trumpet section, I've got 3 guys that played with Maynard Ferguson. So they all know what's expected. And I have to say that my dad ran it like a business.
Yeah.
You gotta come to play. It was like a team sport.
Yeah. It's not a game.
No.
It's a business.
And that locker room got pretty dark when there was a rough, he was a taskmaster, but it made the band good. So there's that discipline involved. My hope and dream is that the kids that we have in here today actually take this, whether they do it full-time or not, they take the education and the tools that they get from music, which are wonderful tools, and they get to apply them in their everyday life or their other jobs, because it does bleed into other things. I know my friend Mike and I were together at a drum shop that I had for years, so, and you learn so much. If you do this well, my dad had a saying towards the end of his life, it was like the last lesson. One day he looked at me and says, the thing is, you do everything like you do everything. You really do. You either care or you don't. And when I'm frustrated with the band once in a while, what's the matter, guys? Don't you care? And that usually tightens the ship up.
Well, leading a big band is a job in itself.
It is.
You know, just making sure you've got the right personnel and they're on time, and you got some guys showing up drunk, and all of those issues come into managing the big band.
It is. There's a lot more to. I was just having a conversation with a colleague about contracting orchestras, and I've had a bunch of them. I had 50 strings for the Eagles. I've had a ton of different shows through the years. Like we had Obola, which was a 35, 40 piece orchestra. You really do need people to get along.
Oh yeah.
The professional thing is not just how good they play, but what kind of people they are and what kind of work ethic they have. And you really don't have time. When I'm in the middle of looking at a chart and the conductor's looking at me and I'm playing drums, I really don't have time to worry if the clarinet player remembered to bring his reeds or her reeds. That's stuff that I count on the people that I've cultivated or procured to do those jobs, to do them well. So it's not a worry that I have. And that's why when you mentioned earlier couldn't get any trumpet players, I expect everybody to come and give 110%. Like
Absolutely.
You gotta care. And it doesn't get done otherwise. And it's really about pleasing the audience. At the end of the day, we're entertainers. I think if I have a slight against the jazz world in general, it's that jazz musicians forget that they're there to entertain people. It shouldn't be a burden. It shouldn't be, I can't believe I have this burden to deal with. That's not why they're there. I learned that watching Buddy Rich, my father, a lot of other band leaders. People are there to come in and to forget about their moans and woes for a couple hours and get tuned up. That's what they're really there for.
Yeah.
Or to get moved by the music. So you have an obligation as an artist to not only be going somewhere for your own art, but to remember that people are watching and they're listening. And that's what you're there for.
That's the difference between being a popular musician and somebody who's not so popular, obviously.
A craftsperson, I would say, once you get good at the art, then you have an obligation, especially in today's world where everybody wants to know things. You have to kind of put it out there. It's a different day today where you don't have that uniformity of structure like you did with the music business with all the record companies. Today, you're selling a lot of your own jams and jellies if you're a musician. And there's a lot of people in that boat. Hey, I've got CDs for sale after the gig. That's become the commonplace today. So the business has changed a lot.
You know, you brought up a great point. And back in a couple, 4 or 5 years ago, you could sell CDs. Today, everything is online. And you don't make any money at that.
No, you don't.
You got to sell 1 million records before you make any money. What do you get? Like 2 cents of
It's absolutely ridiculous.
So the musicians are really taking the shorts.
Absolutely.
And
until I'm not a huge fan of Gene Simmons, the bass player, as a musician, but I respect his business savvy. And he said, you're gonna laugh because I'm the millionaire, but there's no structure left in the music business. And that's a big reason why we have all the problems we do with musicians getting paid. And I don't know where that, it's coming, the day's coming. I can tell you this, because my father was involved in Motown for so long. There's something called special use, which is, say, somebody made a movie and they wanted to use a Motown song in it.
right.
The guys that played on that, and gals that played on that record do get paid. It's not residual on a regular basis, but for special use.
Really?
To this point, Motown Records has not, or their attorneys, legal, have not gone after Asia as a whole for any collectible monies on Motown recordings. Now, can you imagine how much money's sitting there? How many millions of dollars in residuals are owed to those musicians? Never been collected. But I guarantee you, there's a slick international attorney somewhere working real hard on that.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's still about getting paid. You know, it's something that in our business, it's a real thing. I don't think you have to suffer one or the other and play the downtrodden jazz musician. I think you can realize that there's a balance of both. You have to pay attention to both of those things, whether that's social media, how you present yourself, the kind of music you play,
Right?
musicians you hang out with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It all kind of does matter.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you'd like to talk about before we wrap and ask
Anybody have any
if they have any questions?
Absolutely, questions.
Any questions out there? Yes.
How do you get compensated? Do you only have events here, over there?
I'll repeat the question so we can hear it on the video. How do you get compensated?
Well, all kinds of different styles of music. I could be here last night, my yacht rock band played. I mean, you're not going to run, I don't know anymore, but you don't run into a lot of musicians, local, that do it full time. You really don't. They've got a side hustle somewhere. I have been very fortunate through these, and so is my wife. She's in the music business as well. She's a Broadway show musician and a music minister in St. Joan and St. Clair Shores. So we do music. We joke about it. This is the house that music built because it's very rare that you can make a living doing it.
Absolutely. Right. Yes, sir.
Yeah, actually you answered my question in spades before. There's a lot of really good bands in the area. One of the things about Jeff is he takes it so seriously, and you actually told me some stuff now that I didn't know from our conversation a few years ago, but you really are going for perfection and really take this seriously, and it shows whenever you guys play. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for the compliment. I appreciate the compliment very much. I think the only way that gets done is if you have like minds on the bandstand that everybody kind of wants to do well. I can tell you this week, we didn't have time to get together for a sit-down rehearsal. So emails went out and PDFs, and here's all the tunes, and you solo here, and what about that? No, I don't want to plan it. In other words, there was still great communication amongst the whole band as to how we were going to approach today. Just like getting ready for a football game or anything else. We got a program. Again, if we're organized, when you come to see us later, I have a show in order instead of standing around and, oh, wait a minute, folks, we'll get the music right out. You're there to also entertain and move things along.
I was going to say, that was something that you had mentioned a couple of years ago when we talked. You're there to entertain, and you do it so naturally that until you said it, I didn't even realize that that's what makes it so good.
I was actually a really shy kid. So the ability to speak in front of people or get on TV, because we do a lot of TV spots for the festival, I've never really, but okay, I was at Channel 2 the other day, and I walked in, I saw Scott, one of the line producers, and I said, where do you guys keep Sir Graves' coffin? So any Detroiter knows what that means. And he kind of chuckled because we had been, he said, how long have you worked here? He was talking to one of the young guys. And I said, the first time I worked here was the Jerry Lewis Telethon. I was 14 years old. It was Doug Jacobs and the Red Garter Band used to play the local spots for the telethon. And Chuck Robinette was in that band, and John Kelso, and Tom Bogardus, and I could still see all the guys there.
Yeah.
Of course, we do a little. Those years we were drinking a little bit. John and I, Mike Carew, some of the guys. So we would get done Labor Day night at about 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and they had a Winnebago set up with liquor and food. Then John and I would go play the Peach Festival in Romeo. We'd go have another gig in the morning. Yeah. So, I mean, it's been quite a fun experience, you know? Really a kind of a blessed life. And able to have memories like that. So I told the guy, I said, I've been working here since I was like 10 years old. We did Kelly and Company here, live broadcast. I looked at it and I said, believe it or not, we had a 32-piece orchestra in this room. One.
Really?
Yeah, we did. Nighttime TV show, so it's just a great experience, you know.
Any other questions out there?
I was just.
Yes?
Jeff, since taking over the big band, have you made any changes to the composition of the band for regular jazz gigs?
Depends, it's kind of a build it for what it needs to be. If somebody called us for a wedding, which I don't do a lot of anymore, but once in a while we get called. If they want to pay for an 18-piece big band, which is around $7,500 these days, for a full show with PA and 2 singers and 4 hours, that might look a little different than what we're going to play tonight, right? Because this is kind of geared towards the listener, where if we go to a club date or a wedding, it's geared for dancing. It's geared more for entertaining dancers. So
Right.
that would be a
And your
difference.
dad did the same thing, I'm gonna.
Did absolutely the same thing. Right? He was not a fan of weddings.
No?
No, not at all. In fact, if he could, a lot of people knew Dad, but I would tell you, he was not nuts about being a band leader. He took on responsibility because he was just kind of that guy. He would take on responsibility, and he did it well. He did it very well. But his happy was sitting in a trumpet section and playing a big show.
Right.
His happy was in the recording studio doing his craft. That's his happy. When he had a conductor look at him and go, that was John Trudell's happy.
Yeah.
For sure.
You were talking about Walter White doing the music for Taxi. I was just hanging out with Bob James about a year and a half ago, and he brought that up. We were talking about that.
He got Walter his union card in New York City.
Yeah, yeah.
With George Coleman and the guys that were on the show that first year. Walter and I met on a Lions game. And a guy walked in with his silk jacket on from Maynard Ferguson's band, young guy with his glasses on. And my father said, wait till you hear this, kid. Wait till you hear this. And it was worth the price of admission, believe me. And we've been fast friends ever since. That's going on. I was 19, 35 years we've known each other.
Well,
36 years we've been together. It's wonderful. It's great to have somebody to be able to bounce music off of, and you guys share a symbiotic thing about playing together. I mean, he's had that with a ton of different guys. He had with Rick Marcus, but we have managed to stay working partners and partners in crime for many, many years. And it's a pleasure to have him around.
Yeah.
Dad treated him like his son. The band kind of lends itself to his talent.
mhm.
So that's a no-brainer.
So he's going to be featured today.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Great. Any other questions before we wrap it up? Yes?
So last year you spoke, and I asked you a question. Is Hal Blaine a good jazz drummer? You said back in the day you wanted to be Buddy Rich, and then after that you wanted to be him.
Yeah.
So the Wrecking Crew, there's a lot of YouTube with Hal Blaine, and the Wrecking Crew were studied. They went to school and they read music. The only guy that didn't read music was Glenn Campbell.
Right.
Whatever, but he was fantastic. My question is, how accurate are the charts?
Depended on the producer. It's still like this very much in the business, just in general. Depends on the producer, the orchestrator, if they even want to bother with that. Sometimes I go into a session, I can use my own, because it hasn't changed all these years. Let's say somebody's got an idea for a tune and there's a scratch piano track. Maybe everybody will start playing a little bit and getting a feel for something, and you're kind of creating on the fly then. Sometimes we'll go in, and a guy like David Vanderpit, for instance, years ago, that wrote What's Going On, everything's written out. He knows exactly what he wants. Or you might understand what he wants, and you're not going to have to really, you know what he wants, and as long as you're playing what's, you know what I mean? As long as you can read it, you're in good shape. But there's a dynamic there. There's a big dynamic of what is asked of you. I think one of the smartest things I ever heard Hal say about being a drummer was, he was an actor on the side, Hal was. He said, when you're working with the director, you want to know your intention. What is the intention of what you're acting about? What is this? And with the drums or making music in the recording studio, I find that to be really important. What is the intention of what I'm playing here? What is that? Once I know what the song is about and the layout of the song, it's much easier to go in then and add, because the drums are really an accompanying instrument, and add something that's going to help that song along. There's actually people, drummers called song drummers, that get hired more because they have more of a sensibility to be able to do that. Guys like Hal Blaine, Jim Keltner, they're hired for a specific thing that they do well. Hal could do a lot of things well. You know, when Buddy Rich's daughter made a record, he called Hal Blaine to play drums. So I kind of stick by, you know, a lot of guys didn't know, people didn't really recognize the Wrecking Crew as a total entity to itself as players, but they were fine musicians. As were the Funk Brothers, for that matter, or the guys in Philly, or the guys in Muscle Shoals. Everybody had musicians that brought something to the table, and because it was mostly jazz and R&B musicians that could read, you had a lot of diversity. These people could play a lot of different styles. And it was all melding then. From the 50s on, 40s on, all that music was melding together. You know? Does that answer your question?
Anybody else?
Just, how about the late
Oh.
great Matt Michaels? I mean, he was, where would Barbra Streisand be without Matt Michaels?
Matt Michaels, yeah.
Oh, yeah, he was wonderful.
Yeah.
As we mentioned earlier.
Wonderful, good friend, yeah.
Yep. We had another question back here.
Yeah, so drums obviously is the most important part of a rhythm section in a big band. How important is it to work with the basses? The bass also provides rhythm as well as harmony.
First of all, I would question which instrument's the most important in the band in terms of that. The bass player, I hate to say this, but the bass player is really, really important in a big band. The gentleman that's playing with me today is going to be proof of that. He's rock solid, Ray Teeny.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to play together. Like when we play later today, there's a fellow that we played with for years and years coming in from Los Angeles, Mark Nyland. He hasn't played with us in a while, so it's really important that Ray and I play strong today for him. You know, it's definitely, rhythm section playing is definitely just not one. The drums are really important, but you really need to lock up. And if the rhythm section's locked up, horn players can grab onto that. There's way more of a responsibility musically in a big band for the rhythm section. And then also to be able to have the freedom to play more of a small group feel when the whole ensemble is playing, you know, or not playing. Dynamics, bring the band back down, but everybody's still playing. That makes sense?
Anybody else? Yes, another question back here.
Hand drumming, do you do that?
Absolutely. There was a fellow that playing shows. Wayne Newton came through town, and there was an old percussionist named Alfredo Reyes Sr. who had played 52nd Street with Dizzy. He'd been all over, came from Cuba after Castro's takeover had come over before the 50s. His father was a famous band leader in Cuba and was trumpet player, so he understood me very well. We got on very quickly, and he was an excellent hand drum teacher for me and was really the inspiration for me to study a lot of Latin music. Alfredo taught me a great deal, and I was very blessed to have him. He was still alive, 92, 93 years old. as a mentor and a teacher. His sons both play. His one son plays with Chicago as a drummer, and his other son, Danny, plays percussion with Zach Brown's band. So they're a very talented family. He was in Vegas for years and played with Louis Bellson a lot, and used to have drummer parties at the house where famous drummers would come if they were in Vegas for a week. Buddy Rich. So I was exposed to a great mentor, if you will. He was kind of my Mr. Miyagi of that kind of music, Latin playing and things like that. That was a lot of fun too.
All right, well, we're just about out of time, and I want to thank Jeff for
Thank you,
being here
George.
today.
I appreciate
Great
it.
job.
Thank you very much. Thank you folks for coming out. And enjoy the festival today, please. We got a lot of great bands to see, so enjoy yourselves, folks. Thanks very much.
And thanks again to our stage sponsors, Dave and Jeanette Sharp.
Yes.
for making this
Thank
possible.
you.
Thank you very much.